Hi, it's Jesse with Citadel Studios, and today I'm going to talk to you about the M3. The M3 was a revolutionary camera released by Leica back in 1954. Prior to that, the M system didn't exist. The M3 is a misnomer. It's not the first one. You might think the M1 would be the first one, but it's not. It's the M3. It's called 3 because it had 3 viewfinders. It had 50, 90, 135. After that, they came out with the M2, 2 finders, although it had 3. M4, 4 finders, M6, so on. You get the idea. Now, the M3, if you ever thought about buying one, there are 250,000 of them. So you can imagine there's a number of product variations over the years. It was available from mid-50s to mid-60s, and there are a number of minor differences that may affect how you want to use the camera. So say you want to get into the M system to begin with, and you think the M3 is well regarded as a really good rangefinder camera. But why would you want the M3? So we have a whole bunch here, and they may look from afar very similar with the exclusion of the black paint, but they're all different eras. So if you're a user, you probably want to determine whether you want an early double stroke, a transitional, or a later single stroke. So what I have here is an early double stroke. As you can see, they call it the double stroke because it has a double stroke, shorter lever action. The cool thing about these is they're really well built. They have what they call rabbit ear lugs on the side. They have a number of small minor cosmetic differences, and they have earlier speeds. Now, after around the serial number 900,000, they came with the single stroke operation. It's called single stroke because it is a single stroke film advance. It has a longer lever to accommodate for that larger movement that you have to make with your right hand. And as you can see here, they got these smaller lugs that are actually screwed in instead of riveted into the chassis. Now, between those two, I don't have an example to show you today, but between those two, they have what's called the transitional. So if you're a straight up user and you want the best of both worlds, we always recommend to our customers to get a transitional. What it'll have is the earlier, better built lugs, and it'll have the modern speeds and single stroke action of the later M3s. So for a collector, you don't care about using the camera, you care about unique characteristics. So there's two far ends of the spectrum. If you want super early, you want a 1953 example. Now, the camera was released in 1954 on the market, but they started making them the year prior. Obviously, they had to in order to be ready for the release date. So if you get one from the first 700 serial number production started at 700001. So from 001 to roughly 700, you'll have first batch 1953 examples. And some of those are even more rare because they'll have the prototype corner top plate, which has this little bit of a corner edge instead of a rounded edge on all other M3s. Exact production numbers of the corner M3s is unknown because they didn't really mark it down which one had a prototype top plate or which one had a standard issue top plate, but they've only ever come up in that first 1953 batch. So if you get one of those, you're golden. It's one of the most rarest M3s. Heck, it's one of the most rarest M cameras or camera in general. Now, say you already have a corner or a very early serial number M3 and you're still looking to add to your collection. You can also consider an M3 black paint. Limited edition M3s, there were black paint, there's around 3,000 of those. The black paints are beautiful. They're just beautiful. Collectors love them because they have that classic black paint look. As you can see here, it has a lot of brassing, that patina that you can only get with vintage Leica black paint cameras. The modern collectible ones have a thinner paint that are designed to wear very quickly, but when you get one of the vintage ones, you know that wear is authentic, that someone bought that professionally and used it and loved it and took good care of it. And that's why they sell for a rather pretty price. Not so much as an early corner, but still a beautiful camera to add to your collection nonetheless. And then finally, beyond the super early ones and the odd black and green paint ones, there's another collectible aspect of the M3, and that is the very end of the production cycle. We're talking late 60s, the M2s and M4s have been out for years, and they call these ones the M3 no guards because they're the very end of the M3 production cycle, and they started making them more cosmetically in line with M2s and M4s, and they call it the no guard because if you line that up with one that was made only a year or two earlier, there's no guard around the lens release of the camera. And if you had an M2 in front of you, you will notice that an M2 also doesn't have that guard, but that's standard production on an M2. On an M3, only the last, I'd say, 3 batches have that unique characteristic. Very minor differences here, but when you have 250,000 M3s to choose from, every little bit counts. As far as using an M3 in general, going back to being a user of an M3, why would you want one? Well, you would want to use an M3 if the 50mm lens is your standard lens. The M3, bar none, is the best rangefinder to use if you're using a 50mm lens. And I say that because all the other M bodies and most other rangefinder systems that are comparable on the market have a 0.72 magnification, or roughly thereabouts, whereas the M3 has a 0.91 magnification, which is nearly 1-to-1. And again, most rangefinder users are right eye users, meaning that they're going to hold the camera up here, and with a 0.72, if you leave your left eye open, you're going to have this weird disconnect between the image in your viewfinder, the image that you see out of your left eye. Whereas with an M3, you can shoot with both eyes open, which is just beautiful to use with the rangefinder system. You're on the street, you're looking for your subject, you can see them coming, you leave your eye open, you can see them entering your frame, you take your shot, and it ends up being framed perfectly. Whereas if you're using, say, an M6 with a 0.72 finder, you don't have that luxury. It'll be a little bit disconnected, we'll say. If you're using a wider lens, I would always recommend an M4 or an M6. You have the mechanical shutter, you have a very similar operation, but you do have that luxury of having the 35 frame lens. That's not to say that you can't use a 35 lens or wider on your M3, it just becomes a little more complex with the necessity of using either an external viewfinder or getting an M3 with the goggles, where it converts the 50mm frame lines to a wider magnification that frames 35mm focal length. I hope this information has helped you in deciding whether or not you wish to purchase an M3. Enjoy.